All right, we're continuing 9.1 part 2, and we're still going to be talking about parallel lines cut by a transversal. Now when we're finding missing angles, it's just going to be a little bit more complicated. Let me show you what I mean. I've got two parallel lines going this way, and then here's my transversal. So what you're going to see in example 2, I'm going to give you all problems where I don't know specifically what an angle is. All I'm given is x values again. So right now I know this angle is 2x minus 5, and I know this angle is x plus 22. And I'm supposed to figure out what x is and then find each marked angle. So I don't have to find all the angles, just the ones labeled. Alright, so here's what you got to do. Every time decide what type of angles you have, because you got to figure out if they're equal to each other or if they're complementary. And supplementary, which means I'd have to add them up and equal it to 180. So this time, I think and I know they are alternate interior, which means they are the same. So I can set them equal to each other. So I'm going to say 2x minus 5 equals x plus 22. And honestly, the equation solving part is the same thing that we've learned how to do over and over and over again in this class. The hard part is figuring out what the setup is. So every time you got to know if they're equal to each other or if it's something else is happening. I'm going through, I ended up with x is 27. Just like we did in the last unit, now I'm going to just take 27 and plug it in for x and figure out what these are. 27 plus 22 is 49 degrees. And because these are the same, this one should also be 49 degrees. I said that sometimes you're going to add the angles up and equal it to 180 because they're supplementary. I want to just show you an example of that next. So this time, I actually drew my transversal first. Here's my two parallel lines, and there is my transversal. Right now I know that this little inside part right there is x plus 1 degrees, and this little part right here is 4x minus 56. 4x minus 56, that says. Okay, so these two actually, these are same side interior angles, same side of the transversal, both inside the parallel lines. Looking back in our notes if needed, we see same side interior are supplementary. They add together to 180 degrees. So this time, what I'm going to do is take my two angles, add them up, equal 180, and solve. So again, the hard part is figuring out or remembering when to do what, but you're either going to set them equal to each other or add them up equal to 180 for this type of problem. Alright, combine like terms, because everything's on the same side of the equal sign right now. So I got 5x minus 55 equals 180. Add 55 to both sides. Divide by 5, and I end up with x equals 47. Alright, so go ahead, let's see here. This one ends up being 48 degrees. And this one is either 180 subtract 48, because they're supplementary, or I could do 4 times 47 minus 56, and this angle you end up getting 132 degrees. Go ahead and pause if needed, write down any questions. I've got two more examples to show you. Our next one is how these transversals can sometimes apply to different shapes you're given, and this one's more of an ACT type question. Let's say I have this triangle right here, and I'm going to have this line inside the triangle, and it so happens that these are parallel. Now what happens is these other lines of the triangle can be considered the transversal. So if I know that this one right here, this little spot is 3x minus 5, and this spot is x plus 55, if you ignore the rest of the picture and think of it as if these all extend, then it might kind of help. But these two angles are actually corresponding angles, and corresponding angles are the same. So for this question, I'm going to take 3x minus 5 and set it equal to x plus 55. Alright, gather all my variables on one side. Gather all my numbers on the other side. 2x equals 60 and divide by 2. Alright, x is 30. So my two angles I get this time are 30 plus 55, so 85, and then these are the same. This one has to also be 85. Last example. Again, feel free to pause, go back, write stuff down whenever you need to. Draw this one kind of big on your page because there's going to be a lot going on here. I'm going to give you a few different angles, and our task is to find every missing angle. So here's what I'm given right now. I know that this one right here is 55 degrees. And I know that this angle right here is 120 degrees. And our task is to use the angle properties we know and find all the missing angles. So what I want you to do is actually just first pause the video and figure out a few angles that you know for sure, and then unpause when you're ready and you can watch me go through it. Okay, if you've unpaused, I start by looking at the ones I know for sure. So for example, there's a lot of stuff going on in this picture. By the way, I forgot to tell you these two are parallel. Okay, but anyways, I know that this one's 120, and I know this one's 55 because these are vertical angles. Vertical angles are the same. So that part, okay, check, got it. Next, I could find, and there's more than one way to go about doing this, but I could find this angle right here because I see that that angle and 120 are supplementary because they're forming a straight line. Supplementary angles add together to be 180. So to figure out right there, I'll just take 180, subtract 120. So that one's 60. And then because that one's 60, this one must be 60. Here's where my parallel line logic starts coming in. Just along this one transversal right here, I can do the Zorro effect, and this one right here would be an alternate interior with 60. And then if that one's 60, this one has to be 60 because it's a vertical angle. And now again, there's multiple ways to go about this. Here's what I'm thinking right now. This right here has to be 180 subtract 55 subtract 60 because all three of these, this angle, and this angle make a straight line, so they'd add to 180. And so this one is 65, making this one 65. We're almost done. Oh my gosh. All right, next, piece by piece here, this is a triangle. And we haven't talked about this yet in this class, but the three angles in a triangle add to be 180. So to find this guy right here, I'm going to do 180 subtract the other angles of the triangle. And I end up with 55 degrees. All right, sweet. I actually also could have done that using alternate interior, I see. Oh well. This one is also 55 because it's a vertical angle. And last but not least, I'll do 180 subtract 55, and I end up with 180 subtract 55, 125 for that last angle. Again, what I would do if I were you right now, circle, if there's a few angles you're like, how'd you get that one? Circle the ones that you're like, I have no idea what you just did, and then you can ask me in class tomorrow. We can go over it again. Thanks for listening. Have a great night.